You're listening to the Australian Hunting and Beyond podcast with Matt. And when you hear this intro, you know that
Jones' disappointment.
It's on. And we're going to be chatting about hunting, fishing, camping, and everything else that the outdoors has to offer. Let's get into it. All right, good one. Lot of stuff to talk about tonight. And as always, when we are going to unpack a couple of things, I love to get on Frankie. Mate, how are you doing? I see you've got the Hunter's Campfire hat on, and it is known as the Frank. So I've got the Frank on the podcast. It's really just slightly confusing, but that's okay. How are you?
Yeah, no, going good, matey. Thanks for having me back. I'm looking forward to breaking down a couple of things today. Should be fun, and I'm really glad you don't have video on your podcast because I have a face for radio, most definitely.
Well, in fairness, I got a new listener during the week reached out and said, I've got to up the caliber of my guests because you're on here. I mean, I don't know. I sort of agree with him, but
yeah, no, definitely. That's very good feedback, very constructive feedback. I would have to agree with him there, Matt. Okay.
I think you know the person. Yeah, you might have even grown up in the same household. I think. I don't know.
Don't even know why you want to talk to him for, but anyway.
Shout out to the newest listener, Frank's brother. And I'm sorry that I've got him on again, but he is good value. I do like him some unknown reason. All right, mate. I don't know where to start tonight. There's so much. We're going to unpack the Pest Animal Management Plan. We're going to talk about, you just got back from doing Errol Mason's course.
Yep.
We've got the Animal Welfare Plan, which is just a renew. And, I've been out and about as well. So we've got a fair bit to chat about tonight. Where do you want to start?
Oh, look, I'm happy to start with the Errol Mason course for sure.
Yeah, cool. Let's get into that. Big fan of Errol's, and he's a guru, plain and simple. Oh. How was that? What, a 3-day course down in Vic, I believe? Yeah, no, 3-day course down in Victoria in East Gippsland. The man just lives, breathes, walks and talks Sambar. That's all he does. Like, a true passionate man about his sport, about the animal. It was just an absolute amazing 3 days. I learned so much. I've got pages upon pages upon pages of notes, and I'm still thinking about stuff that happened while I was there and still writing more notes down. Like, yeah, it was just eye-opening, some of the stuff. And the man he thinks like a deer. Absolutely thinks like a deer, no worries whatsoever, knows where they're going to be at what time of the day doing what. It's just amazing to be able to be in his presence and actually, hear and listen to all that he says. Yeah, that's cool. I think it's well worth the money. For me, I feel that he's just thrown himself into that world and just researched and watched and studied and gone probably beyond the element of hunting.
Oh, yeah. He's an avid photographer of the deer now too. He was saying how when he first started deer hunting, he was armed bushwalking for about 10 years until he finally wanted to start learning a lot more about these deer, and he's just invested so much money in research on his own accord, just reading books, out in the field, doing trips to India. Yeah. What the man doesn't know about Sambar would not be much at all, I would imagine.
As you talk about that, the only thing I can think is just like that's a true passionate human.
Yeah, oh, most definitely.
Just to invest that much time and effort to go well and truly above the hunting element is just unbelievable. And the best thing is he's then put it out for hunters to improve them. And I know you've been just buzzing. You were buzzing before getting down there. I think you were buzzing even more afterwards, which is great because it just shows like the value for money that you're getting out of his course and what you're learning. And yeah, hopefully your hunting is going to go to the next level.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I'm hoping that's what happens after now, after I've done the course. Like the course itself is relatively, for what you get out of it, you can pretty much offset it by saying it's one Sambar deer worth of minced meat. And that's pretty much the cost of the course. At the moment, I think it's $12.50, which is the cheapest he's ever made it. And on the 3 days, like, there was no stone unturned. There was no question he couldn't answer. Just everything I threw at him, he answered for straight away. And then also gave me literature to go back to and read if I so desired.
Yeah, that's great. I don't think you can put a monetary value on that. Just to be in his presence and have that line of communication with him, that's just awesome.
Oh, just imagine going fishing with, Paul Worsling from iFish or Rex Hunt or Starlo or like Roger Osborne. Imagine being able to spend 3 days with them.
Yeah.
How much more knowledge you would have on fishing anything out there. Like, it's just, he's definitely in the same class as those professionals there. He took us around his property, showed us a heap of different tracking techniques, deciphering between stags and hinds, calves, stags and velvet through tracking. Like, I inspected so much fecal pellets during the 3 days. I was just constantly picking up deer crap and looking at it and just assessing it and everything like that. Just wallows, how to find spots, and just being able to sit there and actually observe deer. And he had really good binoculars there, spotting scopes. Like, he had Swiros there, Vixen, some good stuff that we could use over the weekend, and that was great. And I found that from the guys that were there, like, it was pretty much from novice to well experienced, and it was rather easy to understand from go to woe. And he took his time to make sure he explained everything that needed to be explained in a way that everyone would understand, be they fresh off the hunting bandwagon or those who've been doing it for a while. So that was great as well. And everyone was encompassed in that, and it was just a fantastic opportunity to ask someone with so much experience all the questions you just want to ask a guru, and to have it just there in front of you, that was great. That was fantastic.
It's great to hear that. I talk about that all the time. It's that ability to not just have the knowledge, but be able to teach the learner through differentiation, and being able to understand and know that student understands, or they've actually acquired the knowledge. And that's a real big skill. We talk about it as a teacher as formative assessment. What that means is those sort of knowledge checks and touch points to make sure that the person you are trying to teach, or that group, they're all understanding, because everybody learns differently at different rates and paces. And just because you articulate something one way doesn't mean that everybody will absorb that information. So it is a real skill, and it's really good to hear that, because it is, as I said, he's an absolute guru. Everybody knows that. I don't think anyone would argue that. And then his ability, as you said, being able to teach everybody, that's just awesome. It's great to hear.
Oh, yeah. He took a time with everyone to make sure that they fully understood what was happening, the lessons we were going through, always encouraged more questions. If someone was unsure, he was more than happy to walk them through it. And just the mannerisms that he had in the way of explaining things, like, nothing was too hard. No question was stupid. Nothing like that. Like, he answered every question professionally, and I was just in absolute awe in the way he was delivering his actual course, all the props and everything that he had there on standby. Like, he had Sambar feet from different stages of a stag's life, which we could look at and see differences in the feet and stuff like that while we're tracking. That was great. We went to a spot we were overlooking to see where deer has obviously come through, and walk through certain spots where we could actually sit down and set up a rifle and do some dry firing techniques on how to ambush and things like that. That was great. And learning how to hunt my particular area where I am, because I've just moved recently, and I could spend the next 10 years scouring, trying to find spots and trying to find somewhere where I can go and make sure I harvest deer. He's now pretty much turned 200,000 acres of state forest hunting land. I've now dwindled that down to 20,000 hectares just by looking at certain faces, certain aspects, certain parts of the forest where I know now there are going to be deer. And in those spots, I know where I'm going to be looking, what features I'll be looking for to actually locate the deer and actually have good shots on them, close shots, and how to observe them, things like that. I'm looking forward to putting it all into practice very shortly.
Well, so am I, because we have a hunt planned with a few other people. I think we're up to about 7 or 8 people at the moment.
Yes, we are. It's growing bigger by the minute.
Pretty decent sized group. And I think everyone's going because you are now the apprentice Sambar hunter. And we're all going to lean on you and your expertise from the great man. And hopefully you'll be able to guide us in the right direction or the wrong direction.
All I'll be doing is just showing you my teachings, like showing you what I was taught when that's all I'm going to be doing is showing you where I'm going to go hunt, what I'm going to do, and how I'm going to do it. And yeah, that's pretty much the important thing for me in this trip is to make sure that I do this course justice and actually come back with the goods. That's probably set myself up here, but that's my goal, to come back with something to say, yeah, look here, there's the fruits of the course. It actually has everything you need on it. So looking forward to that.
Well, you say that. I'm actually now just going for the banter because the messenger group's been off the rails. It's been and what I like about it is everyone seems to go for you, which is even better. So I just sort of sit in the background and just let it play out and have a laugh. It's great fun.
I'm glad you think so. We'll see what happens at the end of the day. We'll see what happens.
Oh, look. To be honest, out of everything that's going on about this hunt, like it's 4 days, it's going to be very cold. I mean, I've noticed you've been having a few jabs at me about my camping setup, and that's fine. You can call it the little princess towel or whatever you want to call it. That's fine. No worries. But all I'm going to say this is you've got a lot of pressure. If anybody else there gets a Sambar before you without an indicating dog and without doing Errol Mason's course, that's just, you're opening yourself up for some absolute trash talk.
That's because I told him where to go, Matt. That's how it happened.
Well, you haven't told me where to go yet. So I'm
I'm happy to tell you where to go. Don't worry, Matt. That's fine. That's easy done.
We're still talking about deer hunting, are we?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
All right, so I'm looking forward to the camp. That's going to be really good. It's going to be cold, but 4 days down south is going to be good, and good bunch of guys. We're going to try and do a couple of podcasts down there. So I'm not going to say who they are. They're going to be popping up. People probably know a few of them anyway. So it'll be I'm looking forward to that. That's exciting. I just want to get down there. I think camp's going to be great fun. It's going to be a nice cold event, and
for sure.
Just looking forward to chasing Sambar and have them as the target species and have a bit of fun with that. So.
Oh, most definitely. But in saying that, for me at the moment, if it's brown, it's down, Matt. So I'm not really fussed what jumps out. I'll just get the monkey off my shoulder first.
I think everyone's going to be in the same position there. So everyone's just going, whilst we are chasing them, if it's a deer, I'm pulling that trigger. Yeah. It's not, I'm not letting a fallow walk past just because it's not a Sambar. I don't really care. I want some venison. So it's salami time. We're a bit short and I want to try and stock up. So we'll see how we go down there. But yeah, good group. Looking forward to it. It's gonna be a fun time.
Yeah, no, call me optimistic. I'm emptying the freezer of venison, so it needs to be refilled when I go
even
away.
More pressure.
Yeah, I know. Don't worry.
Jeez. You're going to be as short as Anthony soon with that pressure on your shoulders.
Oh, mate, come on. I can't be that tiny, surely.
All right. Well, let's go and talk about – actually, before we get the pest animal management plan for New South Wales, I think, because that's going to take a bit longer, there's another one. They're sort of simultaneously running at the moment, which is quite interesting. But we've got the renewal for the Australian Animal Welfare Plan out there as well. Look, I'll be honest, I went over it. There was not any real alarm bells for me, I don't think, as a hunter with the hunting cap on.
No.
There was nothing there that I was sort of up in arms or going, I don't trust this. I don't like the way that's worded. I thought it was pretty just straightforward sort of stuff.
I found it was very broad.
Yeah, but I don't think it's changed drastically.
I think they're just looking for ideas, to tell you the truth. I think they're just trying to test the water to see what actual people's concerns are out there. I think that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, they did say in there talking about that animals play such a vital role for people and how they feel about animals, which I get. Hey, I'm an animal lover, so I'm all for that. I've got no problem with that terminology, that wording. I know they wanted to sort of change the topics a little bit compared to the old one, animals used for education purposes and agriculture, et cetera, et cetera. There was all the different topics. They were sort of not changed but manipulated a little bit, maybe a bit broader.
Yeah.
That would be what I would suggest. But there were, again, as I said, from my point of view, reading that document, there was nothing there. I was going, oh my God, I need to really put in a submission here to say, hey, that needs to change. But you had a fantastic idea that we were talking about off the air. So what was that, mate?
So, what I'm going to put in as my response will be to be able to have suppressors while we're actually hunting over dogs. So that way we don't damage the hearing of the dog while we're actually shooting deer. That's my input into the situation. I'm hoping someone might actually read that and might actually get a response to it, which would be bloody great if that happened, but I won't hold out much hope. But I thought I'd just put my 2 cents in there and see how that goes. But seeing as Dave noted that people use their dogs for sport and things like that, well, hopefully this might get through to someone and they might actually listen. And who knows, you might be able to use a suppressor if you use an indicating dog. Wouldn't that be amazing?
I mean, that makes sense. I didn't even think about that. I'm glad you're on here to talk about that, because that's one that makes complete sense to me. If you're caring about the well-being or welfare of animals, that has to include all animals, which would include indicating dogs, which are used for hunting, and they love that purpose. And if you're shooting over them, especially if they're in front of you with that rifle, their hearing's better than ours. That's got to do a lot of damage.
And you take a couple of shots from a 7 Rem mag to finish a dog's career, that's for sure.
Yeah. It makes complete sense. And I know the argument with suppressors for people is that we've got hearing protection. Now, that could possibly be the only argument from the other side, is that there is, I believe, hearing protection for dogs.
There may be. I think you're right. I think there is hearing protection for dogs, but in saying that, then the dog's not using hearing as part of its strategy to actually find deer as well, which is what they also use to indicate. So it's catch-22, I know, but in saying that, like, I find that if I am shooting and, you know, the dog's indicated a deer, I've brought the rifle up to shoot, I now have to tap my side for Joan to come in behind me and hold my hand there and wait for her nose to touch my hand so I know she's there, and then take the shot. All the while, just the deer will be watching her come back to me and trying to figure what I am out. So it just makes it heaps easier to actually shoot the game animal and, you know, not have to worry about the dogs hearing at the same time. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, bloody oath. On that, what's your nickname on the messenger chat?
I have no idea.
The camp.
What is my nickname? I haven't been checking it. Jones Disappointment. Jones Disappointment. Well, I'm not going to argue that either. I am Jones Disappointment. Poor dog indicated bloody 15 deer when we were hunting last time. I wasn't able to nail one. I was very, very, very angry. Oh, don't worry. I'm looking forward to slapping you with a backstrap. Don't you worry.
This is the trip. Mate, I feel this is the trip. It's all going to come together. You've got all the tools in the toolkit. You've got this. I'm actually your biggest fan and supporter in this trip. Like, that is actually like saying a lot, but
it doesn't show on the chat, Matt. It doesn't show on the chat, is all I can say.
I hold back a lot. Thank you. I've been quite nice.
I hate to see when you're ruthless, that's for sure.
What was the one you sent me today about the diesel heater up into
the diesel heater into the Princess Tower? Yes.
Oh, mate, that actually looks really good. I'm not going to lie. I was sitting there going, if it's snowing, oof, that'd be nice.
I noticed someone else wanted to jump in the swag with you as well.
Who needs a hot water bottle?
Yeah, I know. Oh, he's about as big too, isn't he? That's funny.
I had to double take. He flicked us a photo with that roadkill deer that he got off the road next to his property, and I thought it was him driving the tractor.
It was his son. It's a pretty tiny tractor, Matt. Trust me.
God, I can't wait for this trip. It's going to be gold.
Yeah, it will be gold. It will be gold. That's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it for sure. For sure.
There's a lot of sledging going on. All right. Well, let's move on to this pest animal management plan for New South Wales. It's just to give people a bit of an overview. There's a few things to it, which is I think it's pretty good in my opinion, to be honest, because they've broken it up. So I actually really like that fact, is they're not going with a blanket approach for every single region. They're saying, hey, New South Wales is vast. There's 11 different regions where each area is slightly different, has its own challenges. This is what they are. And for people that haven't jumped on and had a look, all the links are going to be in the show notes. But you've got the Central Tablelands, Central West, Greater Sydney, Hunter, Murray, North Coast, Northwest, Northern Tablelands, Riverina, Southeast and Western. They're the different regions. There's 11 of them, and that is up for consultation. So this draft is for 2024 to 2028, and it's the way we manage, or the technical name is the 2024 to 2028 Regional Strategic Pest Animal Management Plan.
That's a mouthful, isn't it?
It is, but I like it, and I like the way they've done it. And I think as hunters, we need to be pragmatic with this. And I see this as an opportunity as opposed to a threat. And there's a few things out of it that I really liked. Just so everyone's aware, submissions are due by the 8th of July, 2024. So you're not going to have a great deal of time to get a submission in. When you hear this podcast, you're probably going to have a week and maybe a bit. So get on it. It can be as easy as the survey, or you can actually make a written submission. But the actual plan, I mean, whew, they've done some work on this, Frank. I'm impressed.
Yeah. I am too.
At how much work they've done.
Yep. I find it absolutely immense, the amount of information that they have there just on this small document, especially for if you're a hunter. Gee, I tell you what, if you want to find out where things were located, you'd just be having a look at the maps on here and you'd soon know where all the deer species of Australia lurk in New South Wales, that's for sure.
Well, that's one of the things I really like about it, to be honest, is they've broken it down into species of deer, concentration of where they are. Now, that's a real positive, because I feel that if you're a hunter out there, you have the opportunity to go, oh, you know what? I didn't know these animals were here. I might go out and see if I can help out with a farmer in this area. Who knows? I don't think that's necessarily a bad opportunity for hunters.
No, definitely. Most definitely. And
And it highlights the density of the population, which is positive as well, because I know I'm looking at it going, all right, where are they greater numbers? And that's probably areas I want to try and see if I can get some private access to help the farmers out.
Oh, definitely. And it also was talking about the Illawarra Feral Deer Management Program in the control of rooster deer.
Yep.
And I think that's great to see in the government paper to say that program has been successful for the last 12 years. So hopefully they can expand on that and people can actually recommend doing similar programs throughout the rest of the area or the state or even the country if we're so lucky.
Yeah, there's some really good things in here, and there is obviously opportunities, but let's just talk about the 4 goals so people understand. There's goal 1, which is exclude, and that's prevent the establishment of new invasive species. And let's be clear here, it's not just deer. It is for a range of animals that are non-native. Goal 2 is eradicate or contain, eliminate or prevent the spread of new invasive species. Goal 3 is to effectively manage, reduce the impacts of widespread invasive species. And goal 4 is to build capacity and capability, ensure that New South Wales has the ability and commitment to manage invasive species. Goal 4 is where I really think hunters have an opportunity there. And if people are, wanting to stand up and make submissions and say, hey, it's saying it here. Build capacity and capability. There is a lot of hunters out there that want to help, want to have access, want to do the right thing, and why not use them more?
Yeah, no, I agree. Even they mentioned themselves a bit further down the document, they were talking about feral fish, in particular carp, and they were saying how they approached local fishing clubs to actually help them eradicate carp and also for them to put their support, as in the local land services, the DPI, government bodies like that, to put their support behind local control programs of the clubs as well. So I think, why can't we do that in a situation where we're, say, hunting, trying to get rid of pigs or goats or deer or brumbies even? We can be used across all that whole spectrum. We can be used to help eradicate these animals. And the starting point, I think, for us would be to jump on that arm of the Illawarra Feral Deer Management Program to say we should expand this out a lot more to a lot of other hunting communities and clubs, and also ask for support from DPI for local land services as they would, support the local fishing club. It's no different in my eyes. No different.
Yeah, I found that interesting that we will promote fishing in that way, but there wasn't as much promoting hunting.
Yeah. So, they did make mention of that field
Illawarra, yep,
which I think is a win for us in that particular instance.
Way better than the feral deer plan. It's not just deer related. So, when I'm looking here at Greater Sydney, they're talking about the African hedgehog, American corn snake, the boa constrictor, cane toad, red-eared slider turtle, and veiled chameleons. So it's a bit of a vast paper, but they have done they've done a lot of work in this. You've got the areas mapped out, how we are going to manage, and then they sort of talk about there being 4 things: prevention, eradication, containment, and asset-based protection. And then that links to the actual animals. And you can see there's like cane toad, they're talking about prevention. Feral pig, isolated populations, is eradication. Feral pig established populations, containment. Feral deer is containment. And then you've got feral cat, wild dog, fox, feral goat, and feral rabbit is all asset-based protection. So they've identified each one. And then on top of that, they've gone down and for each animal, they've said, all right, the feral pig, we're going to eradicate the isolated containment for this one. Who are the key stakeholders? What their responsibilities are? They've given you the distribution of feral pigs, so you have an idea of where they are, all the information there. It's pretty good from that. Now, they've got controls and timeframes. That is a bit broad. So an example here, if you're looking at the feral pig management framework, they're talking about the whole region is under eradication. And they've got here as the controls, ground shooting, cage trapping, ground baiting. But they're not saying what, and I might have missed it, but when we talk about ground shooting, what, who, when, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And the only thing I do dislike is, again, the wording. So they've got in here the control option as shooting is opportunistic. I don't know. I sort of see everything being opportunistic. Like if you're dumping baits and there's no pigs in that area, or they're eating something else, or they're elsewhere, it's opportunistic if the animal's there to feed on it.
Correct. And also I found that they didn't make any mention of pig dogging as being a control as well, because that can be extremely effective.
Yep, I agree.
And that is a free resource the government can call upon. Like Ned Makem on the Hunters Campfire podcast, I think it was number 95. It came out a couple of weeks ago, I think.
Yep.
And he's talking about the research he's doing up in Queensland and how they have in 6 months eradicated something like, don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure it was something like 30,000 pigs through pig dogging up in Queensland. And they're taking those samples of them and sending it into, it might be local land services or some sort of government body, and getting that data for them.
Yep.
So that is great for us as hunters, because we're now being a conservationist scientist body.
Citizen scientist.
Citizen scientist, without us having to do much out of our way besides cutting an ear off and packaging it properly.
Yeah, no, look, completely agree. That is left off here. The other thing for me is just reading on saying, landholders have the opportunity to contact a contractor. Again, sort of pushing that one side. It doesn't really go into recreational hunters helping out. They do make mention of Farmer Assist Program. Yep. I'm not a big fan of that, I'll be honest. I've been on it for a long time, and there's very rare that they pop up. Then getting contacted is very rare. I don't know anyone that's ever been contacted through it. I don't know. I think it could be done far better, and that's just my personal opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Someone's out there might got all the phone calls, but definitely not something that I have ever had any luck or ability to go and help a farmer out.
Oh, most definitely can be done better.
Yeah, and then there's the aerial shooting again, which, look, again, I'm not a big fan of aerial shooting. I know there's people out there that like it, think it's great and whatnot. I don't know. It's just not for me. I get everything has a part, and I'm not opposed to it in areas where there's literally no way to get into it. But if there's an area where you can do something without it, because for me, right, if you're talking about aerial shooting pigs and you're shooting them in areas that you can't recover them, you're now just creating another resource to feed other feral pests.
Yep.
So is that really an objective? Are you achieving your objective by reducing numbers, by putting one on the ground, leaving it there, and then it potentially feeds more? I don't know. I don't see the value in that personally, and it costs a lot of money. There has to be better ways to do it.
Well, as I said to you before, they've got a free resource there in pig dogging, or using recreational shooters, outreaching to clubs and stuff like that. There are so many ways a landholder can get free help, but once again, it's just being able to earn the trust of the landholder and then showing that we can actually get the job done. So, and that's the important thing. Like, unfortunately, sometimes we're our own worst enemy, where we'll go to a property and, we'll shoot a couple of deer, take them home, but there might be 300 on the property. I'll use an exorbitant number there, whereas the farmer wants them to be cut down. There, I can see why he'd want to have the helicopter in, because he'd want to get rid of a whole heap of them real quickly. But in saying that, it's an effective way of getting the numbers down, but it's not an effective way of killing, as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't seem a humane way to leave, deer with broken pelvises and backbones. They're laying in the paddock waiting for the crows to come and peck their eyes out. I just don't see that as being a great way to die. But mind you, a lot of people might argue the fact of using a bullet or an arrow through the heart might be not the effective way either. So who am I to judge, I suppose?
Yeah, and look, that's the thing. It's each their own. Again, these are just opinions. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not necessarily right. Same as yourself.
Yeah.
People out there might have opposing views, and I'm always open to hear those opposing views to put them against my thoughts and opinions.
Yep.
But there is a lot of information that I think they've done well. I then also question it a little bit of where the information's coming from. So I'm guessing, especially just focusing on deer, I'm guessing that it's coming from like feral scan.
It could be feral scan. It could be observation from National Park.
Could be. If it's feral scan and there's more information from that, that's a little concerning in the sense that I regularly see people that hunt put up things on social media going, what species of deer is this? So then you're talking about the general public who are not as invested in these animals as hunters.
Yep.
Being able to correctly identify them as well. So not saying the report's wrong at all. I'm just saying the validity, accuracy may be a little bit questionable.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So that's something to be mindful of. But, hey, still props to them. A lot of good information there. They've done a lot of work in it, and I like it. As I said, you can get on there and you can see the population densities of different species and where they're wanting to try and exclude or contain or whatever they're doing. So it's quite a good document for that sense, saying this is where we're projecting to go with it.
Oh, definitely jump over and have a look at it, guys. At the very least, to give you some information of where to find particular species you're after and what density they're in, for sure.
Yeah, and I do agree. They talk about that we need to be removing about 35% of deer to control that local population every year. And if you look at what goes on in the States, a big factor in their control is hunting and removing so many. So
yep.
I have no issue with trying to remove 35%. It is probably a waste leaving these animals to rot. That's my biggest gripe with the whole thing. If there is going to be a gripe with it, is to say, hey, let's do it in a way that provides food that is, they're a sustainable resource. Like, what are we doing? Just don't shoot and let them just rot or feed other pests. That's not a good thing.
Just don't let it
and
go
again,
away.
This isn't just feral deer. We're talking about all pest species here. We're talking about foxes, wild dogs, pigs. So it's not, this whole plan is talking about everything, not just deer. So if that's the case, then we can't be just going, let's shoot things and let them stay there as a food source.
Definitely. Once upon a time, there was a price on wild boar to go to the chillers to be sent overseas.
Yep.
And back then, there were guys trying to find properties or large amounts of land they can go and get pigs from, because they'd go out in the night and catch. between 30 to 40 pigs in a night to make a full night of it. And they'd make money out of it. They would enjoy doing it and they'd make money out of it. So I reckon as soon as you put a price on them, I reckon that'll come back to fruition, I think. Those numbers will start dropping right down instead of us wasting it and it going to a purpose. I think that'd be even better.
Yeah. And I mean, like, let's keep going. Let's talk about the cat part, feral cats. They talk about management and control. And one of the control methods being microchipped and registered. Why are we not going further to that and saying that you've got to keep them inside?
Well, that or is it cat aviary they call them?
Yeah, cat runs.
Cat run? Yeah, something like that. Like that's being a responsible owner, I feel. Like cats do an enormous amount of damage to the environment. So many native animals obviously get eaten and killed by them. So why can't we ensure that they stay inside? Like we know that they're killers. And we know that as soon as they hop the back fence, they're probably going to go out there and start traversing the countryside trying to catch small mice or rodents or little birds or crickets or whatever native animal out there that they can grab a hold of, they will. That's just in their nature.
Now, one that really stood out for me is the distribution of wild dogs in Greater Sydney.
Yeah.
I would never have picked that. I would have got that in other areas, other regions, but yeah, I would never have thought that here in Sydney.
Yeah, right.
So again, we're talking about this, and again, I love chasing deer, but they're not the only things I want to chase. Again, I talk about being a conservationist. I talk about, taking animals off the landscape and managing numbers. And that's, again, not just about deer. It's about all species. So that's perked my ears up to go, oh, okay, I didn't realise there were so many issues with wild dogs. That's something I'd like to help farmers out with. It's so that it's not impacting their, hip pockets. That's something I'll start to target.
Oh, it'd be very prevalent to properties that surround national parks and Crown land. I feel that there'd be heaps of wild dogs and feral dogs out there just waiting to jump the fence, jump onto sheep or cattle straight away. I think, concentrating in those areas there, I think you'd be in with a chance.
And obviously they've got all the animals. As I said, we're not going to go through every single zone because there's 11 of them and they're all different. The one thing I do dislike in there is, again, the 1080 poison. And I get people, say that it's one thing in the toolkit. I would like to see us try and utilise every single thing before we do that.
Yeah, well, it doesn't mention 1080 poisoning until it actually gets to pigs, which I found really good. Like, it doesn't even mention anything about poisoning of deer until it got to pigs, which I think was a step in the right direction. If we can go the other way,
foxes, dogs, they've got all that for poisoning.
Correct, yes, but they haven't got anything down for. They haven't got any poisoning down for deer. They're just pretty much doing arrow shooting, ground shooting, and trapping is another thing they're trialing out, and they said it's worked for some deer species. So, and they're still trialing that, which is good. They're trying a different solution, which I find is great.
Yeah, I got no issue with that. The one thing I did like with the goats is like the mustering.
Yep.
I don't understand why, as you said before, pig dogging as opposed to, we talk about mustering for goats, but we're not going to do that with pigs. Not even opposed to that with deer as well.
Oh, yep. Hound hunting.
They run hound crews down there in Vic.
Yep.
I'm not opposed to that happening up here as well. If we're talking about being serious about reducing numbers and that conservation side, which I'm all about, is these are all things that we should be looking at prior to. I would rather have a hound crew working and pushing deer and getting them that way than doing aerial culling or doing baiting or anything along those. And I know this doesn't mention baiting for deer, so that's, as I said, a very big positive. But there's options there too, and it's interesting that I think these might have been done in isolation, because if you're talking about mustering goats, is there an opportunity to do something similar with deer? I feel a hound crew or something along those lines would help out.
Oh, definitely.
Obviously, goats are a little bit different. They've got different things like Judas goats and things like that. They're all good things. Like, I'm not against those at all.
Yeah, no, I've been looking at the cats especially and thinking back to the way the Americans do it with cougars, how
Yes.
they'll let out a pack of blue tick hounds and bloodhounds and they'll go off trailing and then they'll tree the cougar up in the tree.
Yep.
And then usually the hunter comes around and shoots them with their bow or with the shotgun or whatever they use to shoot the animal with, but they shoot them and it's pretty much an instantaneous kill. Like imagine running a crew of dogs through a state forest, treeing cats all day. Like it'd be a fantastic affair just following the dog. As soon as they tree a cat, bang, you're over there. There's one cat gone. And they live for it. They're just doing what they love doing the most. Treeing cats would be, I think, as one way of us getting out there and eradicating more cats. I'd love to know if anyone has a dog that does that in Australia. I'd be very keen to have a chat to them about it. But yeah, I've been thinking about it a lot, and yeah, if you wanted to get the numbers down real quick, I find that dogs are a great tool, whether you're hound hunting, whether you are rounding up goats, whether you're tracking animals, whether you're treeing animals. I find that they can be used quite well in each of those scenarios.
I like the idea of that. I didn't think about that. Well, you talk about the mountain lions, but then coon dogs.
Yeah.
There's no reason you couldn't teach dogs to do it with feral cats.
No reason whatsoever.
They do it with squirrels as well.
Yep.
Same sort of deal.
Squirrel dogs, yeah, correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's a great idea that I think could be implemented here and that possibly is left out. So there might be a submission point that you can throw in there and write up.
I'd love to see it. I would love to know anyone in Australia that does that. If anyone does actually listen to this one with me talking, I'd like them to make
reach out.
Reach out, please.
I'd love to get you on the podcast to have a chat about it.
I'd love to see how
awesome.
they teach the dog to tree the cat. That'd be so cool. That'd be so cool just to follow a pack of hounds, treeing cats all day and just shooting them out of the tree with a shotgun. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, bloody oath. So, as I said before, submissions 8th of July, so you're not got a long period of time to get moving on this. What were some of your suggestions? I think there's a couple here for me. If we're talking about all these different areas, again, I know this is run by LLS, but this is the plan moving forward for New South Wales that has to encompass talking about opening up national parks for hunting.
It would do, and I imagine it would be on a very strict basis as well, if it would be a polar program.
Which is nothing wrong with that.
No, correct. And I feel that if we're going to take baby steps in this, then I would probably reach out to those who are, I'd say, probably leading people in their current fields. So in pig doggers, I'm pretty sure you can contact Ed Makem, and he'd probably give you some really good tips about how to go about it. But the recommendations that come from someone with some experience, I feel that is a trusted person of the actual scene. I feel that will project like good people forward in those polar programs. And I think by using a free resource, like the government uses a free resource in the Volunteer Fire Brigade, this would be nearly no different than that. It's just we're enjoying doing what we're doing, and if it means that we're going to be citizen scientists, and if we can add that to the belt, then why not? Like I'd be happy to cut an ear off every deer that I shoot. It wouldn't be much of research, I must admit. But anyway, I'd love to be able to send in. If I can help that way, I would help that way, most definitely, for sure. So yeah, I think through them outreaching to people who know the game and what to do, I think that they'll find that there'll be a lot of volunteers, especially throughout the hunting community, that would jump at the bit to help in that scenario. And you can see that they're already doing that through going to local fishing clubs and trying to support them in their control programs of carp and invasive fish and stuff like that.
Very good points there. I think in a response, that's what I'm writing, is that you made one about the Rural Fire Service. Great idea. Just using community members to do a job. Yes, provide training. Hell, I don't see that being an issue. No. If there's some extra training to make hunting safer in the eyes of the public, I don't see that as a problem. Let's do it. Let's get proactive. Let's be adaptable and say, hey, let's do this. Love it. Same as the carp thing. If you're willing to get fishermen on, hunters do the same thing, right? There shouldn't be a disparity between people fishing and people hunting. It should be, hey, we're doing the same thing. At the end of the day, whether it be the fish is dying for food or the deer is dying for food, it's the same thing.
Correct. And I feel that through more community engagement, I think it's going to only better serve our purpose out there, I feel.
Yeah, most definitely. And as I said, I love the idea of controlled circumstances. And even national parks, if you don't want to open them up for just people to walk through and hunt like in Victoria, then put bait stations, put shooting lanes, put them in areas with a safe backdrop, attract the deer in there and have people sitting there in a blind shooting them with somebody who supervises. Like, there is so many ways to do it that I think people would jump at the opportunity, harvest the meat. It's a win-win-win.
Oh, for everyone involved.
That's something we should be looking at doing. So there is opportunities. It's just whether people want to be willing to pursue them and set something up that's not just already there and it's just, it's easy just to use the choppers, or it's easy just to do what we've always done. And that's a mindset of a lot of people, is just, we've always done it that way. Let's keep doing it that way. Well, that's not necessarily a good thing. So something to definitely think about. I think the other opportunities there, suppressors, putting that in there to have that conversation again. If you're a law-abiding firearms owner, why are we not entitled to use the suppressor?
I agree. Yep.
Again, I'm all for extra training, extra safety, extra requirements, whatever it may be, but they are a tool. And this is talking about what tools do we have to control these animals. Why are we not, again, looking at this as a viable option? It is used everywhere else. There are plenty of benefits. An additional one is what you said, using indicating dogs and shooting over the top of them. That's going to make you more successful in locating deer and hopefully shooting deer. I know it hasn't done it with you just yet, but
Thanks,
potentially, sorry, I had to get that one in there.
Yeah, stab me again. Go on.
Definitely had the opportunity for that to happen. I think that's another tool that we should be really having a good hard look at.
Oh, it's amazing how in England, in some spots in England, you're not allowed to use a rifle unless you have a suppressor on there. It actually states that on the license, which I found quite amazing. So in England, they're even using suppressors. In New Zealand, they're using suppressors. In Canada, they're using suppressors. All the Commonwealth countries, except for ours, use suppressors.
Yep.
So I think it's time that the general population maybe got a little bit more mature and realized that legitimate hunters are not using suppressors to turn into ninja snipers and, to walk through the bush like we're some sort of military, grade.
They're not doing it just to pop off rounds and be unheard, which is the vast sort of pitch out there, is that we don't want them in the hands of the wrong people and whatnot. But
at the end of the day, if the wrong person wants a suppressor, they're going to get a suppressor.
Correct.
They're going to manufacture a suppressor. Yeah, a criminal who wants one will get one.
Well, I always relate that back to prisons. You've got apparently the safest place on earth where, they have all these controls about trying to restrict contraband, and yet it's all in there. They have weapons in there. They do like the whole lot. So you sort of sit there and go, it doesn't matter how many controls or laws or rules that you put into place. If someone's going to want to do the wrong thing, they're going to find a way. So let's not punish the 99% of law-abiding firearms owners that do the right thing because 1% might do the wrong thing, or even that percentage might not even be licensed firearms owners, that they're just criminals to start with and they don't really care, and it doesn't matter what law you're going to put in because they're not going to follow it anyway because that's what they do.
That's correct. And we're using, in my case, I'm using a suppressor so I don't make my dog go deaf. And another thing that can be used for is actually when harvesting animals, by having a shot with suppressor, you may be able to get that second shot off without alerting the other animals. So I feel that it's time that us as Australian hunters actually might take this opportunity to step up and say, hey, we feel like we need to be able to use this for what we do, not only to save our hearing, but also the animals we use in our sport as well.
Well, not just that, we're also talking noise pollution here too. I mean, if you talk about a smaller block that's surrounded by properties with complaints from neighbours, I mean, that's a bit of a pain in the backside, not only to the neighbours, and I get it. If someone's out doing pest control at 11, 12 o'clock at night shooting foxes, that's not great for the neighbour to be hearing that all the time. So I completely understand where they're coming from.
Yep.
Then
most definitely.
Potentially them calling the police because someone's shooting on the property that's surrounding them. That's just wasted resources for the police. There is quite a few different elements there that could be really resolved with just the ability for people to use suppressors. And again, I'm not just saying open slather, everyone gets them, but I'm saying there should be an opportunity for people to have access to them, to really, whether it be upskilled, license, training, storage, whatever. I don't think that's a bad thing. Then it also puts money back into, Australian companies manufacturing them. Like, there's multiple wins here as well. I don't see that as a bad thing. Again, as you said, I think there needs to be a mature conversation about this and stop looking at it as the what if. Let's cater to the negative side of the population as opposed to the large majority of the positive side.
Well, let's have a look at it. There are so many pros to the argument. How many cons are there?
It's keeping them out of the hands of
a criminal. That's the one con. That is the one con. Who are going
to get their hands on them anyway.
Exactly right.
Where there's a will, there's a way. They don't follow laws. So what's the point of, just saying, all right, these are the laws, we're going to ban everyone? Well, still not stopping it.
Correct. So I feel like there are so many pros that as hunters, like, we have a say. We do have a say in this country as to what we want done. So we can all stand up for it and go, hey, this is what we need and this is what we want to do with our sport. This is opportunity for us to do it. So, yeah, if you have the time, guys, just write in. Put down your thoughts on it, and then if enough of us do it, then they need to respond somehow. They must wake up to the fact that, a lot of people have actually asked about the same thing. So surely it doesn't fall on deaf ears, and hopefully someone does do something about it.
Yeah, and then the last one I'd say is a suggestion if people want to make it, or something along the lines of, let's get some sort of system. I always talk about like a hunting Tinder, where property owners have access and they can see ratings and who's around them. And I would love to see something like that done by a body to promote the use and ease. And if it doesn't work out, those people are removed from the site. So you weed out the bad ones, promote the good ones. That's a real win. I loved when I was talking to Phoebe down at ADA for the Snowies and ACT, saying that they help out property owners. If it's a bad fit for whatever reason, they'll give them someone else. It's all about the property owner, and I believe that's the way it should be as well. But I'd like to see a better platform for access. The idea of the Farmers Assist Program has merit. I think it's executed really poorly. I honestly believe it's probably because SSAA don't really, that's not their bread and butter in the hunting. I don't think they care that much about it. It's just another small part of what they do. But I think it has merit if it was done really well and there was a decent group advocating, promoting, using, and that's LLS. But they're not doing it for whatever reason, or their one is not done very well either. Don't know if it's jobs for the boys. I have heard that. Again, that's just something I've heard, that they look after their mates that apply and that's it. And I think that's damaging to the whole place. I know we've gone out to a couple of properties with a mate and the farmer said that they've had LLS in and they've done a really crappy job. And that has been, and I'm not saying all places are like that by no means, but I have had that feedback as well. My mate's got access to the property that he takes me to. That's on the back of LLS losing that because they're just not happy with what was happening. They weren't doing much at all. And why? There's so many people out there that are willing to help. So there's a failure in the system. And again, I'm not bagging LLS out. This is such a large problem and it's so broad that I get that the ball's going to be dropped in different areas. So I'm not bagging them out. But I'm just saying this is an opportunity. If we're looking at this realistically, this is a way that we could potentially really improve and provide access for hunters, better support and help for farmers, and all done through LLS on an existing platform that's just not being done very well. That sounds reasonable to me.
Yeah, no, it definitely sounds reasonable to me too, Matt. And I feel that the one holding all the chess pieces, so to speak, I think it would be the farmer and the face value of someone being put forward to the farmer. So, the farmer say, for argument's sake, reaches out to LLS, say this is the issue we have. LLS goes, okay, we've got this guy here. We have spoken to him about what's expected of being on a property. This is what he can do. This is how well he can shoot. And, we can recommend this guy and put him forward. And then, even if you have to, talk to the farmer, have like a chat, interview, or whatever you want to call it. But if the farmer likes you and they know what you're on about and they know that you're keen to get the job done, there's no reason why they're going to say no to you. Like if you've got your own insurances and things like that, that's one thing that they want. They want to make sure that you have your own insurances. You're not an idiot, that you do know what you're there for on his property. And then even local land services will say, well, this guy can do fencing as well, or this guy can do welding, or this guy, is a plumber, yada, yada, yada. And that might even help him out as well. So things like that, just helping connecting the dots in the community, I feel like creating a bridge for people to get that information and to get that access, I feel is what would be key in this scenario, is just assuring the landholder that the person on the job, so to speak, can get it done. And if they can't get it done, then there's another person in line that they can try again, and then so forth and so forth. That the farmer doesn't have to be attached to that one and be the communication be all and end all. He can literally go back to the local land service and go, oh, this guy was really good, or, these guys are really good, or the group you sent out was fantastic. They got rid of a heap for us and they looked after the property while they were there. They had great manners. Yep. We're happy to have them again. Yep. There's a 5-star rating attached to them. And then they might be recommended to another farmer and they can still keep going back to that property as well. So a pilot program would be fantastic from local land services in that fact, or DPI or whoever, whichever government body wants to do it. But the key to the whole thing is bridging that gap between the farmer and someone who comes recommended, that someone can put their name behind, if that makes any sense. So,
well, yeah, I think the only thing I'd say to that is probably do it through an app. I mean, technology is playing such a big role now. Make it so that literally you could have an app, you could have the farmer can jump on and punch in the dates, and they then can pick what people are available for those dates, and they go, yes, yes, yes. They can rate them. All the information's there. They don't have to call LLS. They don't have to. Like LLS might have a program that people have to do. Hey, they might even have people accompany you on the first hunt or whatever it might be. And after that, you've been accredited, whatever. You're now on this app. People rate you. Farmers get an idea about you. They can just book people without having to have the conversations. Go steps further. Get someone like Rob from Athena Spatial, have maps already done that people have to do it like state forests, that you rock up to the property. You've got a Venza. You've got areas that are there they can access. There's so many elements you could do just via app and have it running that would minimize the amount of conversation, time spent, et cetera, et cetera. So many opportunities.
Oh, yeah, that'd streamline it something fierce. It'd streamline to no end. But in the same sense, I think as long as those who are on that app the farmer would want to be vetted or to have gone through some sort of screening process to actually be on there, and for them to have the knowledge that, yes, the people on here are fair income and they are of good stature, I think we'll go further to enhance that app as well.
Yeah, and I think that's where the accreditation, have maybe your first place you have to go out with LLS, DPI, whatever it is, then being rated. You've got these steps and hurdles to try and minimise cowboys or people doing the wrong thing. That has to be the starting point.
Yeah, I agree. It has to start somewhere.
So a good segue off that and talking about this app and what we're doing is, I've been lucky enough going out with me mate Dan, and we're chasing Roosa, and we went out the other week and it was a good trip. Saw plenty of deer on this property. Sorry, not on this property, on the surrounding properties. And that was the biggest pain.
Over the fence?
Oh, mate, we probably saw about 25.
Always the way.
All on the wrong side. We stalked into probably 40 metres on our side of the property from 3 monster stags.
Yeah, right.
There was a 4th off them as well. So we were just like, oh, if they were on the boundary, happy days. We were, 40 metres away, Had no idea we were there. They were just grazing away. Plenty of girls around. So good to know they're there. We're trying to pattern them. We got some trail cams up and things like that. But one of the things for us is we were watching them when they moved on to another property we don't have access to. And we were watching them go through. And we're watching these boys going, oh, geez, they're big. And then there was this monster. And Dan's nicknamed him the Hulk.
The Hulk.
Because, oh my God, we thought the ones we were looking at were decent.
Yeah.
This thing made them look like little Tinker Toys.
As in body size?
Oh, yeah. Massive. Antlers way bigger.
Much darker?
Much darker. He was the boss. He was the big boss.
Could it be a rhubarb?
I don't think so.
No.
He looked like he was the dominant one. And look, he was a decent way away, and I'd taken the thermal out because we got out there in dark wanting to test out and play with the thermal, so I didn't have my binos. So didn't get a really solid look at him because he didn't show himself. So we could see the herd, all the girls, the hinds sitting around with the young ones and whatnot. You had these 3 boys grazing. There was another one next to him. But those 4 we saw over there, and then we saw this big boy. I'm guessing he was just chilling somewhere there close to the herd, that they're his, and these other boys are just hanging around, and it's just like, well, he's the boss. We're just going to cop that one because he was definitely far bigger. So we're hoping to get back out there and catch up with them. It's a great time at the moment with the rut on for Roosa.
Yep.
So it's exciting. Hopefully next couple of weeks we might get lucky.
Just time in the bush. That's all it is, Matt. Time in the bush.
Well, it is. I mean, it's going to happen. As I said, I just really want to be there when Dan knocks this big fella. So hopefully we'll get out there a couple more times. He might slip up. Who knows? Hopefully they'll get onto the right side of the fence.
Well, hopefully the girls find the pasture better on your side of the fence, and then I reckon you'd have a chance then. Hopefully when the rut comes into full swing, he might be right behind them, and yeah,
he'll play it by you. I mean, that's hunting though, isn't it? Like, it is what it is. They're either there, they're not. They move on, they move around. It's one of those things.
Especially when you've got smaller properties and you're hunting smaller properties. It's quite hard to be there when they're on there, and just to make sure that you are there when they are there. That's the hardest part. So it's more time you spend there, the more chance you have of them being there on the block, pretty much.
That makes sense. And fingers crossed we meet up and we'll see what happens there. But it's exciting having the Roosa rut at the moment. And that they are probably the most, between them and fallow, are the most prolific deer species here around the Greater Sydney region.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. The rooster stag, the rooster deer, and the fallow deer. If you have a look on that map from the Pest Management Plan, even on that, you can see how dense they are around the region. It's ridiculous. Yeah, no,
100%. So, but get out there. Hopefully we can help the farmer out, because I know it's just extra feed off their property, which they don't want. And they don't want them there. And yeah, I get it.
Has the farmer asked you to have some meat when you do shoot one? Do you know that?
Dan's already done that, and they loved
good.
it. So
sweet.
Yeah. No, it's his access that he's taken me along to. So that was where I got my first rooster.
Oh, yep.
Or my first deer, I should say. So yeah, now it's Dan's turn. We need to get him on. I really hope he gets that big boy. Yeah, he's done that, which is great, and the farmer's really appreciative. So just need to get another one on the deck for him.
No, that's it. Patience and time's all you need.
All right, mate. Well, it's been a good one. Glad you came on. Glad you had such a great time down there and learnt so much with Errol. I can't wait to get out into the bush with you in a couple of weeks' time and see what this camp brings. I know it's bringing a lot of laughs. Hopefully it's going to bring, half as much venison to the table as well. And then I think everyone will be going home extremely happy.
Oh, if that's the case, I think it'll be an absolutely great weekend away. It'd be good to get a deer on the ground, get some venison out there, and make some salami. I'm looking forward to that.
I want to know, are you bringing any moonshine?
I am bringing a beverage of sorts, yes.
Ooh.
But I won't disclose it as yet.
Oh, secret.
It's a little secret, but once we're there, we can partake in some. And looking forward to showing that around the campfire too.
Sounds good to me.
Good stuff.
All right, Frankie, mate, as always, appreciate you coming on. And, mate, I'm sure you'll be back on soon. And, listeners, bye for now.
Bye for now.
If you have a topic, guest, question, or any gear that you want to hear about on the podcast, shoot us an email, australianhuntingandbeyond@gmail.com. Alternatively, find us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. All the links are in the show notes. If you haven't already, make sure you give us a review and subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform you're listening on. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.